funds directly from the state and administered those funds through the city. About 3 years ago, the state made some policy changes, and basically because our population's under 15,000, we went under the county instead of having our own program. So it wasn't anything we did wrong, it was just a change in policy and procedure. So communities less than 15,000 went under the county. So for the last 3 years, we've been guaranteed a project through the county's CDBG program. Those 3 years are now up, but we're still eligible to apply. This program in recent years, our project we're getting ready to do on Oakland Street with the curbs and sidewalks, that's this money. We have a project that the county just signed a contract for Taft Avenue to repave Taft and add curb ramps on Taft. That's CDBG money. But increasingly, to make this work, the county receives about $100,000 roughly from year to year. You take the administration out of that, it leaves about $80,000 for projects throughout the whole county. And last year it worked out to where the city got funding, the village of Mechanicsburg got funding, and 2 townships got funding. So in an ideal year, you'd have that type of split where everybody gets a little bit of something. But what we're having to all do is leverage a little bit of local money with this money to make the money go further. So last year, the 2 townships, the village, and ourselves, we leveraged local money with this money to make our projects happen. So everybody could get some of this money with their money and make things happen. So my guess is that's probably going to happen again this year, where we're going to try to leverage something. The project we're looking at this year is to do another phase of Oakland with the curbs and sidewalks. So if you remember, we're going from Miami to Church, right? So we would, in the future, pick up at Church and go north, and we're probably going to try to do a block at a time. So we haven't done the engineering yet or have an estimate on that yet, but Tyler has that on his list to get put together. So by the time this gets to a third reading, I might have an estimate for what we're looking at for Oakland. But that's the project that this would give us permission to apply for, is essentially Oakland Curbs and Walks Phase 2 is what we call it. So there's also, in this legislation, there's a few CDBG programs that we can apply directly for. Right now we have no plans to do so, but one's an economic development program, which is what we use for Rothschilds. The county applied for that one, but we do have the ability to apply still as a city for those. And then also there's an infrastructure for water and sewer that we are also eligible, but again, we don't have any projects we're planning on applying for. So there's also 3 competitive programs through the county we could apply for, and we're not planning on applying for those because we can't come up with a match. We'd need like $150,000 in match to make those grants work and score. So anyway, just Oakland Phase 2 is essentially what comes out of this legislation. And there is emergency language at the end of the resolution, even though it's not in the title block. It's at the end that this would go into effect upon passage, but there's no need to pass it tonight.
Mr. Piper, questions?
None.
Mr. Fields?
None.
Mr. Hoffman?
No, sir.
Mr. Paul?
So when you say make it work, really what you're saying is the state gets to score all the applications. And if you put more local dollars in, you get a better score, you get a better chance. Kind of.
Not necessarily with the CDBG allocation, it's just more or less allowing there to be multiple projects funded throughout the county at different levels of government.
Okay.
So this one isn't as much scoring based as qualification based, so it has to be in an LMI neighborhood for one, and you have to qualify that by census or income survey.
Okay.
Okay. Or it has to eliminate slum and blight. It's the other national objective for CDBG.
Okay.
In our case, we typically use LMI.
Okay, great. Thanks, Doug.
Mr. Scott?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Thackeray?
No questions.
Mr. Premium?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, if that's it, we'll declare resolution number 2478-16 to have a first reading. Next one, please.
Resolution number 2479-16,
A resolution enacted by the City of Urbana, Champaign County, Ohio, to authorize the Director of Administration to make application to the Ohio Department of Transportation under the Highway Safety Improvement Program for improvements to the Monument Square roundabout intersection of US 68 and US 36, including approaching roadways and declaring an emergency. And I believe that the rules are being requested to be suspended.
Correct. Great. Council passed legislation recently to allow us to apply to ODOT for small cities funding for the roundabout. As we dug into this and we met with ODOT, we basically have ended up with a total of 4 different funding sources potentially to make this project work. Small cities being one, which we submitted that application by the deadline, which was yesterday. We actually submitted it last week. So we've submitted that portion, but we also believe that the roundabout would qualify for the safety funding through ODOT. And in meeting with ODOT and working through the scoring, which is all data-driven, I saw it today, it's all in Excel and it's all extrapolating data, crashes, it puts a cost per crash, all this type of data that then plugs in to give you a score. And so, Tyler worked on it a good portion of today, and our consultant had also helped with parts of it, but we have not submitted it yet. This would just give us the permission to submit this portion of the application. But at the end of the day, our goal is to have 4 funding sources: the small city, the safety, ODOT's urban resurfacing, which we typically use to pave state and U.S. routes, and then our local funds. So don't ask me to explain it all in great detail because I need multiple reference sources to figure out where all the buckets of money are coming from, but we've got all that figured out, and it's all about making it score and leveraging the dollars, and so that's what we're looking at. Still looking at a 2019 construction year for a project. Actually,
And you need this suspended tonight?
Yes.
Questions from council? Mr. Fields?
Nothing.
Mr. Hoffman?
No, sir.
Paul?
Why are we suspending the rules?
Because we have submitted one application that references this application. And this application's technically not due until April, but ODOT District 7 staff is going to be reviewing the small cities application, and we want to have this one already up there as well so that they're reviewing them together, because they won't fund the small cities without the other.
So contingency of the other?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're going to review the 2 together and make a decision at the district level.
Okay, so section 2 says that the estimated cost, roughly $570,000.
For the highway safety portion.
Oh, okay, all right. That was
It's a bigger project than that.
Okay, that's what I thought, okay. Other than, I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Doug.
Mr. Scott?
Doug, of these 65 crashes in this time frame, do you have any idea how many were actually involved car to car, or how many of them were signs that got knocked over by a semi? Like, I see these yield signs get bumped all the time. Is
Some
that
of those-
part of this data?
I think so. I think they considered those fixed object crashes in the data when the yield sign was struck. So yeah, that's in there. But we also had 3 bicyclists that were struck in the crosswalk in that 65. So, and there are going to be crashes in the intersection. The goal is to decrease the crashes. I mean, when you have 25,000 vehicles a day and 1,700 of those are trucks, you're still going to have, accidents. The whole goal of this whole project is to reduce the crashes we're seeing. But yes, there are some that would be fixed object, which hopefully through the improvements, those type of incidents would be reduced.
Yeah, I'd like to see them not hit the light poles. That's kind of a pricey fix, but
Yeah,
the yield sign's not so bad, but those light poles are
we've had fewer of those hit, but
good.
we've paid for a few too.
Yeah. Thank you, Doug.
Mr. Thackus? Mr. Pena?
As you said, a lot of the fixtures get hit, the signs and everything. Since the roundabout has come up there, how many trucks have gotten stuck on the monument before the roundabout?
I think, yeah, very few.
Yeah.
We had one a couple years ago that somehow managed to damage the floodlight on the flagpole, scrape the flagpole. I don't know, I mean, must have been a bad day, but
That's the only one I can think of that actually caused damage and was stuck.
Do you remember how many we used to have per year before the roundabout?
Well, back when I used to take care of the flowers uptown,
Yeah.
it was very frequently.
Yeah, so,
Even if it was just a rut,
yeah.
it was there. So, yeah,
Thank
a lot fewer.
Mr. Piper?
Yes, does this involve the situation we have with the meeting we have, the outfit you call, to do it,
Yeah.
all the monuments? Is that what they're going to do?
Yeah, the concept that you saw at the public meeting,
Yeah.
essentially that concept has been tweaked a little bit further from the public meeting and the input. It's very similar to what you saw that night, but there have been a few changes that have been made and incorporated based on the feedback we've received.
I
So,
was thinking about building those things, cement risers, that they were going to have a lot of problems, maybe more accidents, running over the top of them, damaging cars, and I talked to the city street department, and they seem to think that they're going to have a hard time doing the snow removal up there with all that put in there.
yeah, snow removal is one concern. The other one is wide loads, which they've designed the curbs to be mountable, or they would design the curbs to be mountable for wide loads, so.
But this project was $570,000.
It's more than that. That's just the
More than that.
portion for this funding source.
So right now, if it was $570,000, our 10% would be $57,000, wouldn't it? Somewhere in that neighborhood?
Right. I think this one we're looking at, 10%. 90-10, right.
All right.
Any other questions, council?
Yeah, just a statement. We talk about all the state money and things coming back. This, in my opinion, really is a public safety issue. You've got people crossing the street, they're not, the crosswalks are not marked all that well. There's nothing to stop somebody from blowing right through there. You may not see people. All we're saying here is go see if you can get the funding. So we're not allocating $57,000 just for this and another 40 for another piece and another 10 for another piece. So let's see what you guys can come up with. And I did really like the plan that NIPL came up with. I thought it made a lot of sense, and they were really responsive to some of our feedback. So let's see what we can do and get out of this. And we still have, 3 years before construction would start?
Essentially, once we apply, we're committing ourselves to a project. So but if we receive a project, we'll budget for the local matches that are required
Right.
when they're required.
Right.
So,
And we'll have 3 years to get that together, so,
right, yeah, we're looking at 2019
yeah.
at the earliest.
Okay, council, we have a request to suspend the rules and pass this evening.
I'll move that we suspend the rules on resolution number 2479-16.
Second.
Okay, roll call on the suspension, please.
Mr. Piper?
No.
Mr. Paul?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Fields?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Pena?
Yes.
Mr. Thackeray?
Yes.
Okay, suspension passes.
I move that resolution 2479-16 is placed on the floor for further discussion and possible passage.
Second.
Roll call on passage, please.
Mr. Paul?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Fields?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Pena?
Yes.
Mr. Thackeray?
Yes.
Mr. Piper?
No.
Okay, it passes 6-1. Ready? Go. Next one, please.
Resolution number 2480-16, a resolution authorizing the Director of Finance to submit an application on behalf of the City of Urbana to join the Metropolitan Educational Council and declaring an emergency. Rule suspension requested.
You want to talk about it first and see if you want to suspend the rules?
Yeah, I can do that.
Go ahead.
We were approached by our insurance broker, Stocksdale's Insurance, that we are eligible for a discount on our health insurance premium by joining the Metropolitan Educational Council. So at last meeting or the meeting before, when you approved the health insurance contract, that included this discount. So, in order for us to meet the requirements of joining the council, we have to pass a resolution by our city council. Basically, I'm going to cut a check for $300, and we saved $11,000 in our insurance premium.
Okay, Mr. Hoffman, questions? Mr. Paul?
Are we going to use this group for anything else? I went out to their website, and they seem to have a number of other ways that we might be able to save some money.
Our $300 membership fee covers just the health insurance discount,
Okay.
so we will not be participating in any other purchasing.
Have we looked at participating in other groups?
We have, yes.
Not cost effective?
At this point, it's not. We do a lot of our major purchases off the state bid list, but as of right now, we haven't found anything in particular to join. This was brought to our attention by our broker. That was a way to lower our renewal cost.
So, okay, so I just want to make sure I'm clear, because that's the first I've heard of this. So we saved money on health insurance, which is great. We're very happy about that, of course. And then we find out that they quoted us a price based on something they didn't have?
They quoted us the price on us joining this organization.
Okay, because we had, not to my knowledge, talked about doing this before.
Right. And it was mentioned in our health insurance committee meeting, and then I forgot about it until Mr. Stocksdale approached me last
Okay,
week.
so just miscommunication.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine, thank you. I still like saving $11,000.
Yeah.
so.
Mr. Scott?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Thacker?
No questions.
Mr. Pena?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Piper?
No question, thank you.
Mr. Fields?
Nothing.
Okay, are you interested in suspending the rules on this? I need a motion to that effect if you are.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend the three reading rules on resolution number 2480-16.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Roll call on the suspension, please. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Hoffman, go ahead.
Well, what's the incentive for the insurance company to give us a discount of $11,000 by spending $300? I mean, there's always, there's a difference in 11,000 minus 300. There's a benefit of 10,000 plus with somebody here. Is there, I'm not saying it's a catch, I mean, but there's a reason somebody would give us a discount for being a member of this group.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the background information is on us joining this organization, other than we're specific to joining as health insurance only to get the discount.
We're not obligated, in joining this group, we're not obligated to doing any certain function. We're not,
No, there's nothing like that in the bylaws or in the application.
there's no mailing list we're distributing.
No, there wasn't anything in the fine.
Approved by our law director, I see.
I read their bylaws, but the initial constitution that they had online didn't even allow entities outside of educational entities, but then they revised their constitution. It was not the one that was on the online site, and it does allow political subdivisions to join for cooperative purchasing purposes.
Cooperative purchasing is typically for buying power.
Yeah.
It's a bigger group instead of a smaller group. Maybe the risk is spread out among a bigger group.
Could be.
Just to make a comment on that, I did see that, I noticed that there was one city whose name I'd never seen before was a member, and the local schools are as well.
A lot of local districts, yeah.
Yeah, so they're utilizing them as well. So they're not just somebody that just popped up out of nowhere. Nobody knows who they are, at the back of a van or something, so kind of makes sense to me. Okay.
At this time.
And this is just for a year, so if we decide after a year we don't want to do this,
Yep.
okay, we save $10,000, let's move on.
We'll bid it both ways next year, how's that? Okay, any other questions, council? Roll call on suspension, please.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Fields.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Pena.
Yes.
Mr. Thackeray.
Yes.
Mr. Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Paul.
Yes. Mr. President, I move that we place resolution number 2480-16 on the floor for any additional questions and eventual passage.
I'll second.
Are there any additional comments or questions? Roll call on the passage, please.
Mr. Fields.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Pena.
Yes.
Mr. Thackeray.
Yes.
Mr. Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Paul.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Sidebar. Passes unanimously, okay. Ready?
Resolution number 2481-16, a resolution declaring necessity and intent to appropriate land for the purpose of completing the Safe Routes to School project and declaring an emergency. Rules suspension requested.
Go ahead and we'll see what they say.
I did mention this, and Brianne as well, last week at work session. We have been working since last fall to acquire 7 pieces of property on Madison and Boyce for this project. Council approved us doing appraisal work and negotiating work and title work, and the final part of this is to actually purchase the property and pay for the property being purchased. So we had 7 parcels total where we needed either property we permanently would acquire or property that we would have temporarily, we call it a temporary easement. And all it really means is if you're pouring a sidewalk and the worker standing in the yard to work on the concrete, they have permission to be there. So that's the temporary part of it. But most all these had permanent acquisition as well. So anyway, as of today, we have 6 of these acquired, and we have to have all of them wrapped up by, I think it's the 7th, which is next Monday. This one that's referenced in the resolution, there are a total of 6 names on the property through a life estate. One of those folks has passed away, I believe, over a decade ago. And basically, we can't negotiate, we can't even go in and, you know, they wouldn't be able to sign because there's an owner missing on the deed. So the only way we can move forward with the project is to take the appraised amount that we have available and file that in common pleas court as a civil case, put that money on deposit, which is the appropriation, and basically then we can move forward with the project. And then these property owners will have to go through the appropriate legal means to be able to get that money through the court. So something we want to avoid, and like I said, all the other 6 we were able to work through and get those acquired, and those have all been closed and recorded at this point because of the deceased individual. Has complicated it from even being able to be negotiated. Brianne, if I missed something.
Nope, you summed it up perfectly. I mean, the deceased person was they were never submitted as an estate to probate, so we can't identify any heirs. So it's going to be up to those remaining property owners whether there are any heirs, if the distribution's going to then be 5 instead of 6, or whether there are some heirs of this deceased individual who may get some distribution. The amount that we're going to be depositing is roughly $2,000 because it is just a very small portion of that parcel for the sidewalk.
The end result, if we don't do this, is we can't move forward with the project, as we've already purchased property and spent great investment in getting here. So this is kind of the last thing to get past, and then we'll go within about a month out to bid.
Mr. Paul, questions?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I knew it. That's why I started with you.
This kind of thing is all new to me, and I apologize, I did miss the work session last week due to illness as well, so. So this is the only property where there's a potential sticking point, but the sticking point isn't really going to be ownership, it's disbursement. Right, so we already have everything else is done and ready to go. It's just a matter of those people being able to get their portion of the funds that we.
Right, because we can't divide it up 6 ways when, the 6th person isn't there.
Right. So we put money in escrow, we let them haggle over who's gonna get how much, and we move forward.
Yeah,
Basically is what we're saying.
They have to file an answer to the civil case, which will be, if council approves this tonight, we'll be filing the petition with the common police court tomorrow. And then they can either, file into probate court to get the estate probated, or have them saying, it's been 10, 11 years, there are no errors that are identified, it should be split 5 ways instead of 6.
Okay, so when we deposit the money, we file the paperwork, we're pretty much done. We're just.
We have to submit a certification document to ODOT saying we've acquired all the property we need to proceed with the project.
Yeah.
And part of the certification, so all the ones that we've been able to negotiate, settle, and record, those are all listed with book and page number, where the deeds were recorded. This one actually will be under this process, and it will be listed as a case number.
Yeah, and everyone that's identified is entitled to, as a defendant in that common pleas action, they're entitled to a hearing if there are other issues that they want to raise in terms of their opposition to the taking, but there really isn't, much other than, it is a very small portion of the parcel. Here's the fair market value, we've deposited it, we've met our obligation.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Scott?
So the city is going to administer this, it's state funding, I guess?
Yeah, it's called local let. So we receive money from ODOT to construct the project essentially, and we administer their dollars, federal dollars.
To build a sidewalk that's going to a school that's not going to be there in 2 years.
We asked the question 2 years ago when I guess not exactly 2 years ago, but when the levy was passed, we went and met with ODOT about not doing Madison Avenue, but doing Boyce, and they told us to leave our scope as we originally submitted it. So we've moved forward with that and continue to invest dollars towards that, and this is kind of the 9th hour to, get this thing through and the sidewalks constructed.
Thank you, Doug.
Mr. Thacker?
I have no questions.
Mr. Pena?
No, thank you.
Mr. Piper?
No, thank you.
Mr. Fields?
How much money have we, for property acquisition have we put out already? For these properties?
Just over $10,000. I'm thinking like 12.
But that's money that's coming from the state, or is that our?
We actually worked with the state on our, they work with us, and we're going to be able to get back our acquisition cost plus some of our acquisition consulting cost as well. So
We're not out of money.
going to be out a little bit of money, but not what we thought we were going to be out, especially getting back some of the money for our consultant work.
Thank you.
Mr. Hoffman?
Well, let's not pass up the fact that we're also getting some sidewalks in place that didn't have them. It is a safety thing, and it's going to make that area look nicer, so I wish they'd let us just pick and choose where we want to put the stuff, but it doesn't work that way. That project is already set up, so at the end of the day, it's still going to be a worthy project for the city, so.
Yeah, we even asked the question if we could take what was going to go on Madison and do another block of Boyce. Once you submit something to ODOT and you scope it, you can't go back.
They have the acronym SRTS, I think, Safe Routes to School. So this also could be Safe Routes to Somewhere. If you don't know there, then you put somewhere.
McDonald's.
That may be a park someday.
Yeah, but a good comment, though. It's something we need anyway. It's unfortunate they weren't willing, and I'm not saying willing, but their hands are tied to the federal level, so. When Doug and Tyler went over and talked about it, can we do this? And we were just looking at straight down linear creek. It wasn't gonna happen, so. Move forward.
I remember right, the levy passed in November, and I think we were sitting in District 7 in January asking the question, and the answer we got back was, it's still going to have a benefit, so.
Any further questions, council?
You said there were 7 properties involved?
Yeah, there are more than 7 that are receiving sidewalk because the sidewalk will be on Boyce from Jefferson to East Lawn and on Madison from Boyce to Central on one side of the street. But the property we actually had to acquire, there were seven parcels. It's where we didn't have enough right of way.
Jefferson to East Lawn.
On the south side of the road.
Okay. One person,
People are still gonna walk that sidewalk.
The Boyce one's definitely going to be utilized.
The other one's
The other one, okay, but
place to walk.
I don't think we should jeopardize one for the other.
put your bicycles on.
Or that far down the road.
Other questions, council? When are they gonna do this, Doug?
Construction is this summer.
They turn the corners on those, is that normal? Is that the handicap ramps on that? When they turn the corner, that's where they put the handicap ramp?
Yeah, there'll be ramps on the corners.
Okay. You've had a request to suspend the rules, council. Are you so inclined?
Mr. President, I move that we suspend the 3 reading rules on resolution number 2481-16.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that? Roll call on the suspension, please.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Pena?
Yes.
Mr. Zachary?
Yes.
Mr. Piper?
Yes.
Mr. Paul?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Fields?
Mr. President, I move that we place resolution number 2481-16 on the floor for further questions and eventual passage.
I'll second again.
Any questions? Final time. Was that the bid win?
I'd have to look at ODOT's Ellis system as to when the sale date is, but it's this spring with construction this summer.
Okay. No questions, council. Roll call on the passage, please.
Mr. Pena?
Yes.
Mr. Zachary?
Yes.
Mr. Piper?
Yes.
Mr. Paul?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Fields?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
I can't wait to see him. Welcome. Thank you. And that was our last resolution, ordinance. Miscellaneous business. Start with Mr. Piper.
I've noticed, street paving this year, I've noticed out of all the streets being paved, all of them's in the 4th Ward, but 2.
I don't have that list in front of me, but I believe you. I mean, I don't have the list.
All right. Now, from what I've seen, I think all of them's in the 4th Ward except 2.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations. Make your constituents happy this year.
Great job.
The rest of you guys are going to be in trouble. Mr. Pena.
No questions tonight.
Mr.
Oh, no,
Thacker.
I mean, nothing.
Nothing?
No, I have
Okay.
nothing.
I just wanted to address a little bit for the Finance Committee. We have met 3 times. And we're in a mode of investigating and finding out and looking at options and so forth in financing. Some personal observations is that I'm very impressed with the fact that we've got a balanced budget. The administration seems to have done a really good job in providing the services that we've had so far, in lieu of about a $500,000 reduction in state funds coming in. So I just want to say an attaboy to the administration for being able to do that. There are a lot of things that we need to do in the future that we don't have the resources and the funding to do. So the next thing you have to look at is how's everybody else doing it? And it's interesting, and Chris could correct me if I'm wrong, but the revenue per capita for the average community in the region is about $665. So the average community has about $665 to spend on every person in that community. In Urbana, we've got $474 per person. That's a reduction of about $191. So I think being able to provide the services that we provide with $191 less than the average person, the average community, I think we're doing a pretty good job. So I just wanted to bring that up. I know Dwight's on that committee, and we've spent quite a bit of time going over things. I just wanted to bring those 2 points up. We're doing a great job with what we have. We need more, and we're almost $200 per person less than the average community. And we're in the black. We aren't in the red, so that's a real attaboy. That's all I have.
Mr. Scott?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Paul?
Just a quick question, Chief, we passed resolution 2477, right? You don't have to go, that's right. So we got some grants, how did we find those? Or did they find us?
That one found us.
Okay, good, we like that. How did that happen?
Through email networking.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, good, so you're on the right email list?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. I just want to check, thank you.
Done?
We had a lot of rule suspensions tonight. I know you guys typically try not to do that, and I know most of them tonight were legitimate, so I know most folks didn't have an issue with them. As far as these unfunded mandates we continue to get, whether it's, reflective stop signs, or this audit for the sewer, this audit for the water, what would happen if as a council we just said no? We never have, but what would happen if we just said no? What would,
I think the obvious answer, again, I could be wrong, if we said no to something like that, we wouldn't do it. And then you wait to see if anybody calls your bluff and gives us a unfunded mandate fine, so we're not compliant. So, again, if our goal is to remain compliant on everything we have, particularly when it comes to health and safety. And again, that's just unfortunate. I understand frustration,
right,
because I remember having discussions.
some are worse than others, right? I mean, some of them are almost laughable, some of them are legitimate. So.
Right. And to your point, Doug, just, your comment was, 3 out of the 4 were applied for something. And I think most everybody is trying to go faster, but our processes or our charter, our ordinances haven't kept up with the speed of snail mail, or whatever you want to call it. But, so, that's one of the things that we're working on this year, is to try to look at some opportunities to change those, the language on that legislation that allows us to comply with maybe one reason if it's something that doesn't attach us to any monetary commitment at that point. A lot of these are very routine. It's just something we go out and catch or fish your line and see if you hook anything. Then we got to come back anyway for the approval to spend the money. So, I get what they're trying to do, but, we just don't have that latitude at the municipal level, where the county and the townships, they can do things today and start acting on it within the next couple of days. We just don't have that latitude. That's just the way the legislation works. So, but to your good point, we'll continue to try to see if we can streamline it.
I appreciate that. It helps. I mean, we all have a lot of things going on, and you can streamline something that helps everybody. Quick question. I haven't heard anything along the lines of Q3 in a while. Is there any kind of updates either from the chief on what's going on with that side of it or our side of it? Any updates?
I guess I'm sorry, I didn't hear the...
Q3, has there been any updates or movement?
We are continuing to have discussions with last month we went to the board of revision with an update, which we're still waiting. Jobs Ohio has their offer still on the table. They've given us an extension through the end of March to get an answer. The original deadline was the end of December. They extended it 90 days. So we have until the end of March to accept that award. At this point, we still haven't had a commitment from our end user. We're still trying to get in touch with them in terms of trying to schedule something. And I know, just the conversations we've had in the past, they've covered up a lot of projects on their own, so they're, still working, but it's just not, it's not a front burner like it was initially, but it's still on a priority for them. So, our hope is, Marcia was talking to her today, she's trying to schedule a meeting yet this week, whether it's going to be a personal, they're going to come into town, or if we're going to be a conference call, but we're trying to hook up with them this week for a little more detail. We go back to the board of revision for an update next Tuesday, and we'd like to have something to report. So as soon as we have something to report, thank you for asking, we'll keep you updated. Right now, there's just nothing different than what we have been. Internally here, the only thing that we've been working on in relationship to that project is anything that we had already had POs open. We're trying to finish up some of the loose ends, but we have not opened any new POs. We're not incurring any additional costs at this point, because we're not going to spend any more money until we have a comfort level that we need to spend the money. So at this point, really isn't anything new, but, that's the update.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Felix?
I have none.
Move over here. Chief, anything else for us? Okay.
I appreciate you again allowing us to do swearing in like you did in the beginning. We do have one more position that's open, a safer position that will be coming probably back here in the near future to do. That'll be our last person to fill our quota per se. So I'm going to pass that on to you.
Good.
Thanks.
We're qualified.
Hey, if you want it.
We're qualified. You want to split it?
We'll split it.
The mayor's in there too.
That's right.
Thank you, Chief. Bud?
The water superintendent wanted to share publicly that he's had requests over the last couple of years of people wanting an old fire hydrant for decorative purposes, essentially. And so we have listed one fire hydrant on Gov Deals right now. And if it's successful and we see that local people are buying them, to try to give people that wanted them an opportunity to go after them, they're going to be listed one at a time. But if we find that it's cumbersome and the buyer isn't anybody here locally that was asking for it, they'll either go on there as one lot and a scrap buyer or somebody like that will buy them, or they'll just be scrapped here. So I guess this is the opportunity for folks that have called the water department and wanted to know if they could get a hydrant. They have an opportunity to bid on it. So.
What's the web?
GovDeals.com.
Okay.
If you can search geographically, or you can search by the item, and we actually have a link off of our website that goes directly to any items we have listed. So, the other thing is that prior to the next council meeting at 6 o'clock, we are going to have about a 15 or 20-minute presentation on stormwater education. And the goal of doing that before a council meeting is, one, that it's publicized, but it's also televised, and it gets the word out. We're required to do certain educational things in regards to our stormwater permit that we have. So we're going to keep that to about 15 or 20 minutes, but that will start the next council meeting. We're going to start at 6 and start with that item. So just wanted to share that. When you see that on your agenda, that's what it is. And there's also going to be, last year we had a mailer that went out in the utility bill. Sometime here in the spring, or I can't remember exactly when it is, there'll be a mailer that will also go out that will kind of reiterate the educational message of the presentation. So, all I got.
Chad?
With weather hopefully breaking right around the corner, want to let everybody know that the compost facility will open back up April 1st. Potentially, if we get into some extremely nice weather, maybe a little sooner, but it's not looking quite that way yet in the forecast. But I know with a few of the nice days, people want to do some cleanup. They can call my office, 652-4331, and special arrangements. We don't want to deny anybody to go in and clean up around town. And, we've got a nice area to run into. The only thing we ask is to give us a call Monday through Friday, 7 to 3, and we'll try to make arrangements to make it happen.
Thank you, Chad.
That's all I got.
Appreciate it. Our law department.
I have a few things. Did any council members attend the OML seminar on February 27th? No. I would encourage the newly elected, especially March 12th and March 19th. The Ohio Municipal League does have seminars for newly elected council members, and training is also beneficial to veteran council members. So please make plans to attend one of those seminars. You can find the information at omlohio.org. And the city is a member, so you would get the member rate for those trainings. Also, I will be attending the Ohio Municipal Attorneys Association meeting on March 10th and March 11th, so if you need me, text me that day because I will be not in the office. As far as, most of you should have gotten some paperwork from the Ohio Ethics Commission. The deadlines for those are coming up soon, so I will remind you to get your paperwork in. If you haven't already, you can also submit that online. For the general public, during tax time are scammers everywhere. If you get a phone call claiming to be from the IRS or the city of Urbana saying that you are going to go to jail because you have not paid your taxes, is probably a scam. You're not providing information. Call the police department if someone is threatening to put you in jail because you have not paid your taxes. The city does not communicate by telephone on tax matters. We send everything in writing, so you know what your amount is. But just be on the lookout because there are scammers out there. Also with federal financial aid, this is the deadline today to submit that for students, and one of the things we've been hearing is that some of the websites that people are looking for financial aid and student grants for, those are resulting in identity theft situations as well, where a student is looking for college aid and they're putting in their parents' financial information, and that's how scammers are getting a hold of it. So just be aware, be vigilant. If you have any questions, concerns, there's a wealth of information on the Ohio Attorney General's website as well as the Urbana Police Division. Last but not least, I did attend an economic development webinar today. I have to do that as part of my continuing legal education. So there are going to be 12 upcoming episodes, and if any council members want to sit in on those with me, they're usually like on a Tuesday or Wednesday at 1 o'clock. But I would encourage you, I'll send you the schedule, you all can come up to my office and watch the same thing I'm watching, essentially. It provides a good foundation for what the constitutional basis is and the statutory basis are for the economic development system in the state of Ohio. So if you have questions about Jobs Ohio, tax incentive, those sorts of things, I'll give you the schedule of the webinars that I'll be sitting in on, and you can come see them with me.
Thank you. Finance Department says.
Well, I just want to thank council for approving the purchase with F&E Payment Pros for the easy time and attendance software. I think it's really going to streamline our process every 2 weeks when payroll is generated, and also provide a better service for our employees. I appreciate that.
Mr. Berger.
Handful of items. First of all, today is March 1st, first day opening 2016 for Point North. I know everybody had it on the calendar, probably anxious to get out there. Rain might have kept it away. Just an update, again, we did open it today. We had a phone call this morning, just wanted to make sure that it was going to be open, and it was. The one change that was made in the rules, and if it isn't changed by now, it will be momentarily, we've got a request in. Last fall, ODNR, Department of Division of Wildlife, came through. They did a inventory where they shot the water and they tried to capture fish close to the top and get an idea of what kind of volume was removed. Unfortunately, the critical piece that was missing was last April they were going to do it and have a baseline, that they were going to do it in fall to see what the change was. Well, we didn't get the April one completed. So all we know is October wasn't very fruitful. There was a lot of reports that I've heard over the last probably 6 months that especially the sunfish and a lot of bluegill, some other species were quite readily available, quite readily removed from the ponds up there. So we've made one change based on a recommendation from the ODNR, and that is effective March 1st, all fishing will be catch and release, and we're asking for barbless hooks. One of the things that came up in a lot of the comments coming back were smaller fish that were pulled out, their mouths were just really gnarled, where they were too small to keep, but they were getting caught a lot. And to prevent that and make it more of a recreational area, we're implementing that all fishing is going to be catch and release for this year, and we're asking for barbless hooks, so when we do throw them back, they're not the next guy hopefully will clear your mouths over the course of the season. So going north's up and running. Again, we asked for people's cooperation. Last year, for the most part, went rather uneventful. We did have some self-policing going on in terms of, we had community members that would take out, they'd take their dogs, and they'd walk, kind of help clean up the areas. We just asked people again, it's considered to be a trash-free park. Whatever you bring in, we ask you to take out. It's like a golfer, if you replace 2 divots, that's a good thing. So if you make one, replace 2, and that takes care of the people that don't really follow up with their own trash. So if you bring it in, please take it out. Just try to keep, especially with the wet springs, there may be some areas that are a little muddy. Be careful. We ask you to stay on the gravel area as much as possible. If you step off with your car, you're running at your own risk. We don't provide tow service. I don't think they want bulldozers back there putting up any cars anyway. So, again, it's open for the season. Hopefully it'll be a fun year, and we'll get a lot of people out, especially when the weather starts to break.
Thank you for changing that, by the way.
Yeah.
I heard stories people were taking buckets of fish out of there all year.
And I heard it more than once, so when you start hearing it from different areas at different times, obviously there's some truth in the story. So at this point, again, they put together a summary we got late last year. We just have not published it. You're welcome to share it with you. It's just, there's some things that we need to do as far as trying to increase cover so we can allow breeding, a little more cover for that. The other challenge they had when they did their inventory was, if you, especially the big lake back on the back, you go out 10 or 12, 15 feet, then it drops off very sharp. That shocking or whatever they use to bring the fish to the surface, when you get to a certain depth, it's just not very effective. So when you got some of the real deep areas, the fish are going to be below it. They're going to hear, they're going to feel it, they're going to laugh at you. They're not coming up. So anyway, there's some challenges to that. There's a good effort to do that. So we're in year 2 of the 3-year contract. I met with Jeff Pittman last week, and he's anxious to kind of get things going again. And we have some inquiries about can we open it up to other areas for hiking and some nature trails. We're having some discussions ongoing, so hopefully maybe the next council meeting we might be able to have something to share with that. But what we don't want to do is just open things up, without any type of control or some kind of guidance and out there. So right now, fishing, catch and release, everything Barbara Swimmers.
That's what it was. Last year was catch and release.
I'm sorry.
Last year it was just catch and release.
The one thing last year was bad.
Oh, was it? Okay. I fished up there a lot last year. I never caught anything. All I've seen these people catching is just these little bitty fish, is all I ever seen come out of there.
Yeah.
And I was always told that it was fished out because the people that snuck in there over the years was carrying the big fish out of there in buckets. And then when the city employees, the only ones allowed to fish up there, they was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard through different sources.
The next item, I put a flyer at each of your desks or chairs. This is not the actual flyer, but we don't have they're being stuffed, so we don't have the extras back yet to pass out. But the community cleanup will be in the utility bill, in this month's bill. So hopefully when people open it, it'll fall out, and I believe it's a colored sheet. Again, it's April 12th is a Tuesday. That's going to be the first day of the cleanup. People can start putting items at the curb April 9th to the 11th. Again, we're asking people to get things out early and allow time, keep it controlled, as far as we don't really want to have mounds that are spilling over that need to be contained as best you can, boxes or containers of some sort or bundles. But Waste Management will come through start on the 12th. So basically the rule of thumb is they're going to follow the recycling route. So if you're on the recycling route, then they'll pick up anything after the curb as long as it falls within the guideline. I know there's stuff on here that, like I have, probably a lot of stuff you like to get rid of, but they won't take it. This isn't a hazardous waste cleanup. It is a solid waste cleanup. So if you're not picked up on Tuesday, they'll pick you up Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. So the best thing to do, the simplest thing to do is you wake up in the morning and your pile is still there, you can add some things to it. But if you wake up in the morning, come home from work, and your pile's gone, they're not coming back. So, it's a one-time shot. So we're asking everybody to put their stuff out on by Tuesday morning, and they'll start the round. So if you have any questions, Waste Management has set up a phone line, so you can call directly to they're going to team set up where they'll answer calls and be able to dispatch to a driver. Kind of the intent is they're going to have a scout. They call it somebody kind of working ahead of the pickup crew to make sure that, if they see something that's, a refrigerator that doesn't have a tag on it, they'll make sure that's, everything's got to be, all the Freon's got to be removed from any air conditioners or any of those types of appliances. So, again, I think this is pretty self-explanatory. We're trying to make it simple. It's the first time event for us in terms of not having to require people to haul it somewhere. The idea here is to make it simple, take it out of your garage, take it out of the house, put it by the curb, and they'll come by and pick it up and it goes away. So we'll have some more comments as we come closer to it, but just wanted to get it out early, and everybody will have it in their utility bill as soon as that comes in, probably later on this week or early next week.